42 Foods you should never put in the refrigerator. Fridges are one of the most important parts of our kitchen. The ability to cool our food can keep them fresher for longer, saving time, money, and reduces the risks of eating spoiled foods. However, not all that glitters is gold. While your milk may benefit from cooling temperatures, there are a surprising number of items you should not refrigerate. Here are 42 foods you should never put in the refrigerator. The last 3 will surprise you. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. 1. Bananas. Warm temperatures, around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius 59 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, are needed for a banana to ripen correctly, and this process is halted when it's put in the fridge. The skin may also eventually turn black in the fridge because of the impact the temperature has on the fruit's cell walls. 2. Bread. If you're going to eat all your bread within a few days, don't put it in the fridge. Much like potatoes and sweet potatoes, cold temperatures change the structure of bread, making it taste stale. On the other hand, you can freeze bread if you want to use it over a few weeks. Popping frozen bread in the toaster or oven will refresh it. 3. Garlic. Garlic deteriorates at a quicker pace when stored in the refrigerator due to the added moisture, unless already peeled and prepared. It's best kept in a dry place with good air circulation, at room temperature and away from the light. The bulbs will also last longer if left whole until you're ready to use them. If you're looking for a way to use up extra garlic bulbs, why not try making your own garlic oil? 4. Onions. Whole onions should ideally be kept in a cool, dark place. They contain starch, so they'll become damp and soggy, and ultimately spoil if left in the fridge for too long. Once cut, onions should be sealed in a container and kept in the fridge. 5. Avocados. Avocados that need ripening should be kept well away from the fridge for 4 to 7 days. Chilling them will prolong the process and can cause them to go off more quickly. Once ripened, they can stay in the fridge until you want to eat them. 6. Mangoes. Like avocados, unripe mangoes should be stored at room temperature, since the cold slows down ripening. They can be placed in a plastic bag and refrigerated once soft. 7. Nuts. While lower temperatures may help to preserve the natural oils in nuts, the cold can also impair their flavor. If you plan to use them in the next few weeks, it's best to store nuts in an airtight container in the pantry, where it isn't too warm either. However, if you need them to last for longer than a month and up to 6 months, put them in the freezer. 8. Honey. Unless you really want to wrestle with it, avoid leaving honey in the fridge. There's no real benefit, and the low temperatures cause it to crystallize and solidify. 9. Butternut squash. The moisture from the fridge can impact this vegetable's quality and cause it to go off rapidly. A whole squash should be stored on a shelf or table at room temperature. Once cut, it can be placed in the fridge for around 4 days, or frozen, ideally in cubes. Looking for a way to use butternut squash? Try this squash, sage and comté risotto recipe. 10. Olive oil. Storing oils in the fridge will often cause them to become cloudy and grainy. Stocking them at room temperature maintains their color and consistency. However, olive oil does have a tendency to deteriorate quickly when exposed to high temperatures or sunlight. Keeping it in a cool, dark place such as the kitchen cupboard is better than leaving it out on the worktop. Please like and subscribe to our channel. 11. Potatoes. Cold temperatures mean a potato's starch turns into sugar, which can make it discolored and tasteless. Potatoes should be stored, unwashed, in a spot well away from any sunlight. If possible, keep them in a burlap sack. Looking for some spud inspiration? Potatoes have never tasted this good before. 12. Sweet potatoes. Like potatoes, storing sweet potatoes in the fridge will change the vegetable's chemical composition, ruining its texture and flavor. Sweet potatoes should be stored in a cool, dark, well-ventilated cupboard or pantry. 13. Pumpkins. Pumpkins should first be left to cure, in sunlight, ideally on a well-lit windowsill, to toughen their skin and keep them fresh. Then, they should be stored in a dark, dry, well-ventilated area which is no colder than 10 degrees Celsius 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Leaving them in the fridge will cause them to turn faster. Cured and well-stored pumpkins can last up to 6 months. 14. Coffee. Coffee naturally takes on the smell of the ingredients around it and moisture, so the fridge can damage its flavor. It should be kept in an airtight container and stored in a dark place at room temperature, so it stays fresh until the time comes to brew it. 15. Melons. Unripe and uncut melons can be kept in the cupboard. There's little impact when it comes to freshness, and leaving such a sizable fruit out of the fridge is a real space saver. Cut melons should be covered and refrigerated. 16. Aubergines. Aubergines don't need to be in the fridge, but be careful not to leave them somewhere too warm, or they'll shrivel up. It's important to find a happy medium if you want to get the best from this ingredient. House them in a cool, dark place away from direct sunlight. 17. Cake. Your cake will taste much better if it's not too cold. To keep it fresh, secure it in an airtight container for 3 to 7 days. Of course, if the cake is topped or filled with cream, you'll need to refrigerate it. 18. Hot sauce. If you've been storing your hot sauce on a fridge shelf, there's no need. It's usually full of vinegar, which will prevent any bacterial growth. Much like other foods, the heat of the chili will also be much more potent if it's kept at room temperature. 19. Salad dressing. While you should definitely find space for creamier sauces in the fridge, many dressings are oil or vinegar based and will be just fine left in the cupboard for a few days, says the USDA's Food Keeper app. 20. Dried fruit. Putting dried fruits in the fridge will only add unwanted moisture. They're best preserved somewhere dry and dark, in an airtight container. When kept correctly, they may last for up to 6 months, says the Food Keeper app. 21. Syrup. If you're the kind of household that gets through a jar of syrup within a few months, it's perfectly safe to store it in the cupboard. A low water, high sugar concentration means most syrup, including maple and golden syrup, last perfectly well outside the refrigerator. At fridge temperatures, syrups become stiff, which isn't ideal if you plan to pour them over your pancakes. 22. Chocolate. The fridge is the worst place for your bar or box of chocolates. The temperature and moisture of the fridge can tamper with the taste, color and texture. Chocolate, specifically the cocoa butter, also absorbs the smell of surrounding food, so it's best kept away from other, odorous ingredients. Instead, protect your chocolate in a cool, dry place, in an airtight container if you've already broken into it. 23. Pastries. To keep them just right, pastries are best wrapped in a paper bag and kept at room temperature. If you place your pastry treats in the fridge, the inevitable condensation can compromise their texture, leaving them limp and soggy. 24. Peanut butter. Processed peanut butter can become hard and stodgy in the fridge, meaning spreading a layer of the stuff on your toast will be an arduous task. When it comes to natural peanut butter, it's more of a gray area. The spread may last longer when kept in the fridge, but the oils generally separate, and at cooler temperatures, it's harder to mix the product back to the right consistency. Eat it within 6 to 9 months and it will be safe outside of the fridge. 25. Peaches. Don't be tempted to slip fresh peaches in the fridge if they're not yet ripe and ready. Like many other stone fruits, cold temperatures hinder the ripening process, meaning you'll be left waiting longer to dig in. They're also at a higher risk of spoiling. Store them on the countertop instead and only chill if they're about ready to tuck into. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. 26. Pickled vegetables. So long as you have not contaminated the jar with a dirty spoon, the preservatives used in manufactured pickles mean they should last just fine in the cupboard, freeing up precious fridge space. Make sure the lid is tight, and check the use by date and any specific instructions on the label. However, if you're storing fermented pickles or you've pickled your own veg, these are best kept in the fridge. 27. Dried spices. The refrigerator is the enemy of dried spices, as unwanted condensation is likely to get in every time you remove them. To maximize shelf life, keep in a dark, dry place, and keep them away from extreme heat too. It's worth having a regular clear out of spices that have been lurking in your cupboard for more than a year. 28. Chocolate spread. This much-loved sweet condiment is delicious on toast, but if it's chilled, it becomes much more difficult to spread. The chocolate flavor is also much more distinctive when the jar is stored at room temperature, so make sure the lid is on tight and pop it in the pantry. 29. Tomato ketchup. It's highly debated whether ketchup should be stored in the cupboard or fridge. However, bottled ketchup was sold years before refrigerators became commonplace. Ketchup's high vinegar, salt and sugar content mean it's safe to store at room temperature without spoiling. 30. Jam. Providing jam is properly sealed inside a sterilized jar, it can be stored outside the fridge for up to 2 years. Once it's opened, jam should be kept inside the fridge to prevent mold growing. However, always read the label on individual jam jars if you're unsure. 31. Soy sauce. Labels on bottles of soy sauce may state it should be refrigerated, but restaurants safely leave the condiment on tables all day. The high salt content means it can be stored at room temperature for up to 6 months. 32. Champagne. If you're not planning on opening a bottle of champagne or sparkling wine within the next 5 days, don't keep it stored in the fridge as the fluctuating temperature of the door opening and closing will wreak havoc on it. Champagne is best stored on its side, away from light, in a room with a consistent temperature. Chill a couple of hours before you want to open it. 33. Butter. Butter is virtually unspreadable straight from the fridge and it's perfectly safe to store butter in a covered dish on a worktop for a day or two, says the USDA's Food Keeper app. However, you don't want it to melt or go rancid, so transfer it somewhere cooler, out of direct sunlight in the hot summer months. If you don't plan to use butter in the next few days, it's best kept in the fridge. 34. Fresh soft herbs. Soft herbs like basil, coriander, mint, parsley and dill should be treated like bunches of flowers, cut and keep them in a glass with fresh water. If confined to the fridge, the leaves will wilt and quickly become soggy. However, hard herbs such as rosemary, thyme, sage and oregano should be wrapped in a paper towel and stored in an airtight container in the fridge crisper drawer. 35. Mature white wines. It's widely accepted that white wines are best served chilled, however, storing bottles in the fridge isn't the best option for mature white wines such as Chardonnay and Viognier. While sparkling wines and lighter white wines should be served at colder temperatures, complex whites are better appreciated at slightly warmer temperatures. If you have a wine fridge set at 10 to 13 C, 50 to 55.4 F is the most ideal option. 36. Tropical fruits. What's one thing tropical fruits all have in common? Fruits like mangoes, passion fruits, coconut, and pineapple were all grown in hot climates. These are literally designed to retain their texture and moisture in warm temperatures. 37. Eggplant. Eggplants are incredibly sensitive to the temperatures around them. Their texture and flavor can be altered by minor changes, and so it's important to store them in places that are consistent. You might think that place is a fridge, but you'd be woefully mistaken. 38. Kiwi. There are many fruits that shouldn't be kept in the fridge, and kiwis are certainly one of them. They have the same chemical compound as an apricot, which means the cold temperatures can speed up the rotting process. 39. Grapes. Have you noticed how grapes are never kept in the fridge in supermarkets? The reason for this is clear: they benefit most from warm climates. Once you take them home, feel free to leave them in your fruit bowl. Room temperature keeps them alive for longer. 40. Papaya. Papaya is like most of the other fruits that are grown in the southern hemisphere. This means that the cold temperatures of a fridge actually do little to help the ripening process. Papayas age best when they're stored in a warm and dry place. 41. Tomatoes. Fridge temperatures damage tomatoes' membranes, causing them to become watery and mealy. Storing them in the fridge will also permanently dampen their flavor. The best place to put tomatoes is out on a counter or worktop. If you find you have too many for this, try canning or roasting them. 42. Citrus fruits. Citrus fruits are juicier and more flavorful at room temperature. Store lemons, limes, grapefruit and oranges in a cool, dry space and consume them within a couple of weeks. However, if you want them to keep longer, store them in a plastic bag inside the fridge crisper drawer. Conclusion. Which of these foods have you been keeping in your refrigerator? And which food surprised you most? Please leave a comment below. If you enjoyed our video, please like, share and subscribe and hit the bell notification to the first to receive our next educative videos, and please consider watching our next video on your screen or visit our playlist for more educational, self-development and relationship tips videos, and don't forget to share our videos as well. Thank you.